Hello, and it's a very warm welcome to another edition of Passions. And today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Harry Coe from Luscid. And Harry's going to be talking to me today about his passions and particularly his passions around the work that he does. So a very warm welcome to Passions, Harry. Let's start off. Tell me who you are and what your passion is.
Well, firstly, thank you very much for having me, Phil. It's great to join you. I guess the most interesting passion I have at the moment would be around the business that we launched a couple of years ago. As you mentioned, it's called Luscid, and it's, I think, a quite exciting technology platform that we've set some pretty lofty goals for, to try and really reshape an area of the marketing industry that we think wasn't working very well. So that takes up the majority of my available bandwidth when it comes to passions at the moment.
Fantastic. So I'll start off just by asking you the question, and I have to ask you, and that's you weren't driven to follow the passion of your well-known father, Sebastian Coe, Seb Coe. You weren't tempted to follow his passion and start running around the streets of London.
No, in the simple answer. I'm one of four, so I have two sisters and a brother. We all started off doing lots of track and field. We still play lots of sports as a family and stuff, and have never really lost our interest in that world. But no, I think it takes a very specific mind person to be a professional sportsman, and I'm not sure any of us ever had that sort of burning desire to get out there 3 times a day, do 5-6 hour training sessions and devote 15-20 years to making that our careers. And so it's a fairly easy decision, I think, when you look at it from that perspective.
It certainly would be a very easy decision for me. I'm not going to lie. I've not got the depth of the passion at all for any kind of major exercise. I think you have to be driven, massively driven, don't you, by that? And I've done quite a few interviews over the years with sports people, some of which your dad will probably know actually, and definitely the level of commitment is staggering, really. However, having said that, I don't think it's unfair to say that the level of commitment and drive and focus needed to run and develop a successful entrepreneurial business is massive too. So tell us about Luscid. First of all, tell us how you came up with the idea, why you came up with the idea.
Sure. So it goes back to the beginning of 2022. I was working in a fairly straightforward data analytics role for another software business, but also that was in the same sort of region of influence as the business we've started now, Luscid. I met with my co-founder, who's a guy called Damien Gilman, who is far more experienced than me in the industry, has been around the block, if you wouldn't mind me saying so, but really was able to confirm the things I suspected may be going wrong in an area of the industry, and a pain point that the clients we now serve were really experiencing. And then were lucky enough to be introduced to our two original founding investors, who have been nothing short of brilliant in helping us build the business, helping us to avoid a bunch of big early mistakes that I would no doubt have made if they weren't around and available on the phone at all hours of the day in the first year or so. And they saw what we saw, which was the data backed up. There was a gap. There was a group of an industry that felt they were being underserved, and they didn't have a tool that ideally answered a really important question for them. And we all, as a four, really rolled up our sleeves and said, right, we have a year or so, we reckon, to try and build this thing. Can we get it launched by the start of 2023? So about a year from when we decided it was a good idea to get cracking and give it a go. And then we did. We launched the product at the beginning of 2023. We were able to onboard clients pretty early on and start making some revenue, which is always the sort of golden egg in those scenarios. Can you create something that people will pay for? And now we are close to 2 years down the line of a live platform, so 3 years since we first had that idea, And yeah, it's a nice time to be able to say we have pleased clients that don't leave us, and it works at the moment. We've still got a hell of a lot more to do, which hopefully my burning passion for this business won't dry up, because I'm well aware we're not at the finish line, but we're on the right track at the moment, I think.
And was it an aha moment? Do you remember having an aha moment, thinking, "Hang on a minute, there's got to be a better way of doing this," or was it a slow burn, gradual thing?
Yeah, it would probably help the story if I said there was a eureka moment somewhere that it has been logged in the annals of time forever. But no, it was more of this is a continuing bugbear of the people that I'm working on behalf of at the business I was at before. Damien experienced the same thing with an industry that just wasn't functioning the way it should. And actually, I think what's always interesting in that scenario is I sat at breakfast this morning and someone said to me, "Who is my boss?" And I was sort of thinking, well, technically now I'm sort of my own boss, and I wasn't really thinking about the question properly. And he said, no, every single one of your customers is your boss, and you treat them like that regardless. And actually what had happened was basically there were enough organizations in the marketing, sponsorship, partnerships industry that had forgotten that the brands that are paying the money to do the sponsorships are their boss. They need to be serviced correctly, and if they're not getting the service they require, then they will go and seek alternative opportunities. And that's kind of where that continuous bringing up of the issues that they were having made us think, actually, there's something that we can exploit here. And if we provide a good enough service that does what we think they want it to do for them, we're going to be along the right lines, basically.
Excellent. Okay, so I think it'd be a good idea now to tell us what exactly Luscid is. So you talk about customers, you talk about the industry. Explain to me, because I'm a dimwit from the north, explain to me what it does and what the benefits are of it.
Sure. So if you put yourself in the shoes of, say, a health insurance business, they have lots of customers and they decide they would like to partner with a bunch of opportunities or sponsor a bunch of areas. So whether that's music, sports, film, television, esports, arts and cultural areas, and they have a blank sheet of paper in front of them. They say, where do we begin? We have customers all over the world. We have certain budgets that we can spend. We have brand values that we want the world to know we believe in. We have all the different channels that we can go and talk to them through, whether that's through inviting them to events in hospitality, whether that's talking to them through social media or through broadcast television, whatever it happens to be. And basically what is very difficult for them to do is to figure out which opportunities are the best ones. So we get them to plug in all of that information into our platform, who their customers are, how much money they've got to spend, how they want to go and talk to the customers, what are the unique attributes of their business that make them the business they are, and what they want to project to the world they believe in. Takes all of that information and it essentially ranks the global ecosystem of opportunities for them, so they would understand whether tennis is a good fit, whether documentaries in nature are a good fit, whether it's music festivals, whether it's superhero films, whether it's new esports leagues. And it basically makes what is a really difficult thing to try and figure their way through a lot simpler. And at the end of it, they get some actionable opportunities that they can say, right, well, now we know this is the area we should be focusing on because this is the area our customers love. And this is an area we should be focusing on because it matches up very nicely with how much money we have to spend on trying to achieve whatever we want to get out of said spend.
That's absolutely awesome. By the way, I'm not just saying that because I'm interviewing you. I just think that's a fantastic, because you're right. When you were saying that, I was thinking back to my corporate days. You know, where do you really wouldn't have a clue where to start. So if the system said, computer said that tennis was the thing, does it go into any more detail than that in terms of giving them a guide as to where they could find out more, who they could speak to? Is there any element of that, or does it just say tennis is the thing you should be looking at?
So it's done in stages. So the first output you would get from the platform is telling you which area of interest was the right one, whether that be tennis, football, cricket, films, a certain music genre, whatever it happens to be. Then once you receive that list from the platform, you then do a deeper dive into that area of interest. So say it was tennis, you would get a big list of all the different tennis players, all the different events, all the different opportunities that are coming up. The same in football, the same in movie releases, music artists, esports leagues that are coming around the corner, food festivals, fashion shows, anything that your brand can go and partner with to go and achieve a business goal from. You can then take a really deep dive into specific opportunities, and the platform lists about 7,500 to 8,000 of those. Depending on when this is released, we get updates all the time. But yeah, it's just under 8,000 or so of these opportunities that are on the platform. So we believe it gives a brand a global view of what they can go and think about as an opportunity of where they would like to spend their partnership budgets.
That's just superb. So how did you go about developing the technology? Because I guess there's an architecture in the process terms of how that might look and how that might work. How did you go about making sure that you had technology that could deliver all that? Is it algorithms? Is it AI? Where is it at in terms of the technological functionality?
Well, I think probably my development team would be the best to answer it, but I can say they didn't look too pleased with me at the end of a 12-month build process where I'd been explaining what it is we required and what we were going to try and do. And I sort of saw the blood rush out of their faces whilst they were politely trying to work out how to tell me it was going to be quite tough. But they, as you could probably realize now, were absolutely brilliant. And we now have what I think is by some distance the most technologically advanced solution in the space. On a simple basis, it's an incredibly clever combination of data sources, some public, some private, and it's getting all those data sources to talk to each other in a way that means a client can use the platform with very little training and onboarding, be able to plug in 5 or 6 different pieces of information and get insights that they could action within an hour or so of being able to of having access to the platform. That's what we wanted to achieve. We wanted to make it available to brands of all shapes and sizes. We have brands that spend hundreds of millions of pounds a year on sponsorship. We have brands that spend hundreds of thousands of pounds. It really is right from the top to the bottom of the market, which again, it is a really exciting stage for us to be at when we look at how we're going to grow, which industries we're going to grow into, which regions we're going to grow into.
Is that what they would call almost like a nice problem to have? I'm thinking about the targeting element of that. Sometimes when you've got an abundance of riches with clients, I've got clients of my own in my day job, and sometimes you've got so many places you spin around a little bit trying to get the focus and the prioritization. Is that an issue for you or not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be naive to say that we're not always trying to think about where we double down, be very specific in where the platform is heading, the direction. We've tried to, and without sounding too cliched in the entrepreneurial startup world, is have a very clear North Star, a mission statement of what kind of, essentially we wrote down on half a sheet of A4 paper in the first meeting we ever had about Luscid and what we wanted it to be a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line. And everyone in the business try to stick really, really close to what that long-term goal was, which is to essentially be a completely separate offering to what's available in the market and be this sort of Switzerland in the market where we're just providing data. There's no ulterior motive behind why we do what we do. We just give the brand the best service they can possibly get so they can make the best decision they can make. And essentially that will mean they're more successful, they're happier, they stay in the region, they do more sponsorships, they do more partnerships, they require Luscid continuously. And I think if we continue to stick to that, we'll continue to be successful as we grow.
Great stuff. Absolutely no doubt about it, I think. Just wondering what the journey's been like for you, because you obviously had this idea. You were, from what you've said to me, you were kind of employed, and then you've been on this entrepreneurial journey. Has anything surprised you in that journey? or has it all been what you generally would expect it to be?
God no. I think it's a surprise most days. I never try and pretend, mainly because I'm still, I guess, one of the youngest in the business, having started it. But I never try and pretend I have all the answers, because I know full well that I don't. I mean, we spent a year, just myself and my co-founder, with developers quietly in the restaurant area of my local gym for probably 340 days of 2022 or so, and just we're cracking on and building something. I think everyone tells you that it won't be easy, and that it's not an easy option of having a corporate 9 to 5 job, but you sort of don't believe it until you're right in the thick of it and realize, actually, this is incredibly hard to do, just to build something from scratch and go about it and just basically problem solve on a daily basis until hopefully those problems become less large, and you've got other people that can help you do the process, because you can build a really interesting and nice team about it. You talk about passions. I think that's one of the things that has probably been a newer passion, because it wasn't something that was ever on my radar before. But the passion for building the best team in the space that you come into work with every day, I think is one of the most fulfilling. And I think my co-founder Damien would agree, has been by far probably the most exciting part. Obviously onboarding clients and showing that the platform and the business works, but actually bringing people into the business, watching them grow, training and learning alongside them, and having them teach us at the same time. I think I'm comfortable enough to admit that that is a regular occurrence in the business. Is probably something I'm most passionate about as a subsection of the overall passion for the business.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you said a few minutes ago about the importance of about how companies, as I interpreted it, how companies lose their way. They have this entrepreneurial drive. They have people who are passionate, and then as the team grows and as those offices start to grow out into the other parts of the world, the customer seems to be a long distant memory. Is that something, based on the fact you said that, is that something you're very conscious of to manage and control as the business grows?
Yeah, we try to, and without this coming across as cynical research in the space, there is some very interesting data around founder-led businesses that are at a much later stage than we are, versus companies that have brought in new CEOs to go and manage it and take over from the founders. And actually, the performance levels, whether they're listed businesses or they still remain private, are on the whole significantly better in founder-led businesses that have kept with the founders as the managing CEO or president or whatever jurisdiction it happens to be in, and whatever title they're given. And my honest belief is that's because no one has the passion or lives and breathes a business the same way as the person that started the thing. It becomes your baby. You want every detail of it to be perfect all the time. It's not always the case, but it's what you go to bed thinking about. You wake up in the morning thinking about. You are brainstorming in the shower and figuring out what it is you're going to do next. And I think probably relevant to the whole topic of this series of podcasts is, I think that passion is very hard to replace in someone that joins a business slightly later down the line of its life cycle.
It is, and what we say to everybody, who we talk to about it, and people ask us about the key learning points of the Passions Project and such like. And one of those is I always smile to myself when people say, I'm going to start my own business, and they've got this grandiose ideas. They're going to be Mark Zuckerberg a week on Tuesday, and then they say, but I really do need to look after my work-life balance. And I'm thinking, okay, good luck with that. You might get it, but not convinced.
Yeah, I would never tell anyone to go and sacrifice their physical or mental health to achieve something. But I think, there's a certain level of sacrifice you have to be able to and be ready to give to go and create something of your own. Yeah,
but it is fantastic. So What does, I mean, obviously success, you're kind of already experiencing it to a degree, but what does success with a capital S look like in the next 10 years or so?
I think if we're talking in the next 10 years, I think success would be that we've genuinely changed how the industry functions. So the first port of call for any brand entering the space, and often we our clients are brands that are not well versed in partnerships and sponsorship and advertising spend of that nature, and they come and say we would like you to guide us through the earliest stages of this so that we don't find ourselves off the path, basically, of where smart decisions are made. So it would be that most of the businesses, it will never be all of them, but the majority of the businesses, if they're thinking about sponsoring, partnering, whether it's their local cricket team or whether it's a Premier League football club, that they are taking out an account with Lucid and using the vast capability of what's inside it to give them an understanding of what the best decision is for their business. I don't believe that a brand that has $30 million to spend on a sponsorship that's any more important than the smaller company that has $30,000 to spend on the sponsorship. Both can be just as important and just as valuable to the business in question, and they deserve the same level of rigor and concentration and available data to be able to be comfortable that the option they chose is the right one for the customers that they're trying to go and talk to.
And what's the state of the nation now regarding the, I suppose, what you might call the attitude to sponsorship? You know, as a choice, you've got a limited number of marketing in inverted commas or promotional dollars. Is sponsorship seen as being a great way to spend your money? Does it need more convincing, or has it remained fairly constant in the relatively short time you've been involved in it?
Honest answer, I would say I think it's a very stable industry. I mean, it's been around forever, as I'm sure you know. You see it on billboards, you see it on the front of shirts, you see it on all sorts of different areas of customer potential interest. But I think is a huge varying degree of how well they are executed and the decision-making process behind them. So you have brands that naturally walk away from a decision that was probably not the right one they made, feeling very sour about sponsorship as a whole. You have brands that end up in the right area, that get given the good advice and use the data the way it should be used, that are thrilled with the spend that they've made in the area, the investment they've made in sponsorship. So I think to give an overall view of the industry as a whole for every brand out there, I think it would be too simplistic. I think there are, as with everything, there are positive and negative stories and examples in the industry. I think as a whole, given the growth of sports and entertainment and the trajectory that is predicted to be on, I can only see from a statistical basis, from a data perspective, that the industry will grow, and which means brand involvement in the industry will grow at the same time as more money gets pumped in. You see an example like the NFL, the National Football League in the US, have just allowed private equity, so institutional investment into teams, for example, the same way we have that over here with the Premier League, and you have big hedge funds underwriting movie releases, etc., and all sorts of stuff like that. The influx of capital into sports and entertainment spaces is only going in one direction, which tells me that brand involvement in the space will probably only go in one direction too.
It also strikes me as well that getting the help from your system to actually identify the right route to go, that must be a potentially an opportunity to create a higher likelihood that they'll go down the sponsorship route. I'm thinking about, we live in an age where it doesn't take a lot to put people off. You know, when you're talking about buying off a website, they'll say, you know, if you don't understand it and it doesn't look nice, within 3 seconds you've had it. You know, one of those. And I'm just thinking absolutely. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm
it does, and actually it links quite nicely back to the topic of the podcast, because we find all of the people that, as you alluded to in your previous careers, all of the people that work in the sponsorship departments, the marketing departments, the partnership departments of big brands, small brands, medium brands, whatever it happens to be, it's normally because they're passionate about creating those partnerships. They love the sports sector, they love the music sector, they love arts, they love culture. They want their brand to be affiliated with them because they believe it gives the brand the best chance of flourishing. For them to be able to get these decisions through the corporate ladder, through often complicated processes within big businesses, they need that slightly dull data to back it up all the time. And what we do, which we love, is the output of all that data is creating amazing partnerships, whether it's in Formula One or music festivals or arts, fashion, culture, whatever it happens to be. But there is still that level of slight, I call it granular process, where you have to be able to say, we've chosen the New York Fashion Week to go and partner with as a brand. It's going to be glamorous. It's going to be fantastic. We'll have a brilliant 2 weeks, which I think is coming up relatively soon, actually. But here's all the reasons why we did it. And this is why it was far better than us choosing a Premier League football team or Taylor Swift's music concert, just easy examples. But whatever it happens to be, they're able to defend the choices they make about the things, the area of sponsorship, partnerships, advertising, whatever you want to call it, that they're passionate about. But we provide them that data to be able to say, this is why I chose what I chose. This is my reasoning. This is how I got to the conclusion. So it makes their lives easier too, we think.
Oh, I get that. I so get that. The fact that they can go to the bosses or the finance department and show a data-driven perspective rather than I actually watch Formula One every week. I mean, I just think that's absolutely fair. Yeah, exactly.
It's show you're working, basically, back from primary school.
Yeah, exactly. An objective approach. That's the word that springs to mind. An objective approach to it rather than a subjective approach to it, which justifies it. Well, that's absolutely fantastic, Harry. I really appreciate you sharing that with me. And maybe in 30 years' time or so, you'll be sharing with me your passion for your new autobiography, How I Built Lucid into the Multi-Billion-Dollar Global Brand. Maybe that's something that I could interview you on. I was going to say I could interview. I'll be probably well gone by then.
with any luck, that would be a really nice segue into the next one. The only part I thought I should touch on very briefly is one other passion that I have, which I keep on the side, but it's very close to my heart. And I was honoured to have been given the role a few years ago. Was about 13 or 14 years ago, my father started a charity foundation, which is in his name. He kindly, I think, because he didn't have the capacity to look after it anymore, because of all the different things he has going on, handed the chairmanship of it over to me a few years ago. So what we do is we raise lots of money through individual donors, through charity events, etc. And then we hand out grants to all sorts of different charities, as long as they fall under the remit of improving the lives of young people. It's something that we as a family, my siblings, my parents, we've always believed is the key to a lot of things that potentially are not going well in society, is improving at the very earliest stage the lives of young people. It's called the Sebastian Coe Charitable Foundation, if anyone wants to have a look at it. But I'm particularly proud of the work that we do, the team behind it do, the charities that we provide grants to do. They are all fantastic in their own unique ways. But yeah, I thought it was worth adding a little section of what I do when Lucid is not taking up 99% of my free time.
Yeah. So you're still making a difference. Despite your entrepreneurial journey, you're still making a difference.
Yeah, but it's great fun too. So most importantly.
Is there a website for that, Harry? I don't know if you'd know it. Is it Sebastian Coe Foundation? It sounds a long-winded website.
Yeah, no, it is actually just sebastiancoe.com. So he uses his domain as the foundation.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Sebastian Coe.com.
We're on socials and LinkedIn if anyone ever wants to have a look at it.
Great.
The work that the foundation does, There's links to all of the charities that we give the grants to.
Absolutely. Well, I'll check it out as well, and I'll put a link on this as well. And then, of course, no, you're welcome. No problem. It's an absolute pleasure. And then, of course, the Luscid, the website for Luscid.
Yeah, of course. If anyone wants to take a look at that, always helpful for us.
And how's that spelt?
Luscid. So it's like variation on Lucid.
Yeah, I thought I'd just mention it because somebody will be tapping in the wrong. You can imagine, can't you?
No, absolutely.
Right. Well, thanks very much indeed. I have to say to start with that Harry was my late dad's name, so we're on a winner right from the start for me. So great to have you on.
Name.
Great name. So thanks for joining me, Harry.